Hi, my name is Adrienne Groff, and this is my erosion project. So to start off the project, our goal was to look into a standard of some sort that would kind of match with this experiment and design. So the one that I chose was from the NGSS site. It is a high school standard, but I think it fits really well. And despite the fact that I work primary students, there really isn't a standard that would fit specifically with erosion at that level. So the standard that I used was to plan and conduct an investigation of the properties of water and its effects on earth materials and surface processes. Now, ideally, where the erosion factor comes in when you look into the mechanical investigations, because it does state erosion using variations in soil moisture and content. So it really hits that infiltration and runoff aspect. So the engineering design process that I went through, first was to ask, and obviously the question that we were kind of looking into was how soil and land cover would impact infiltration and runoff. Now, my main focus was on the runoff aspect and less of the infiltration, just due to time constraints and money constraints. Didn't really have the aspect of getting different types of soil, in a sense, from different areas or anything like that. So imagining, obviously there's tons of research around this topic and tons of research being done with the soda bottle aspect designing. So we can already tell what has worked the best just based on what they've shown. And typically what it shows is that if you add plants or grass to an area with high runoff, you're going to get a higher decrease of runoff coming through there, less of that soil running into the water and everything like that, versus if there's nothing there to kind of stop it. So overall, my goal was to ideally think about other ways besides plants that could help to prevent runoff, just because I know for me, I'm probably not the greatest gardener. So yes, I can plant grass, but anything else, it might be a little bit more difficult for me. In addition, when you're growing things, there's the process of waiting until they sprout up, which can sometimes be an issue, and sometimes the runoff aspect, depending on how high it is, could end up washing those plants away and those seeds away before they even get a chance to grow. So I wanted to come up with another way that might be a little bit faster to use. So my plan was to use rocks. Now, ideally, since this is a model, I had to use smaller pebbles. So I'm not quite sure if this experiment would still work as good as it would with larger rocks versus the pebbles that I was able to find in my science kits. So create-wise, I did use a soda bottle and placed the soil in first and coated most of the area. From there, I added rocks around the edges. And the first time I did it, and I do apologize, I totally forgot to take photos of it before I quick changed it. Obviously, the rocks around the edges didn't really do the job that I would thought. Ideally, I thought about how some people have rocks at the edge of their garden, so I thought that might be a way to first start it off. But ideally, the rain hits the soil in the middle, not necessarily the rocks. So ideally, if there's enough rain, large chunks of soil will leave and go flowing over top of the rocks with the water. So improvement-wise, I chose to then put the pebbles all in the middle and leave the soil around the edges. And this did a much better job. As you can see, water-wise, there's not a lot of soil in it. Yes, there's still some soil that cuts through the cracks, but overall, it did a lot better job. So further improvements would obviously be to place maybe the rocks around the edges and the plants along the middle or the grass in the middle, kind of giving that double infiltration and double improvement with it. And then as far as the engineering and STEM practices, a lot of it went under the engineering, so defining the problem, planning, carrying out investigations, designing a solution, and then evaluating and obviously communicating that information. So that is my erosion project.